You think an election has a finish line, right? Ballots cast, results tallied, winner declared.
Yeah, that's usually how it works.
But what happens when the referee steps back onto the field after the game to say, hold on a minute? That's the wild ride we're on today with the Barito Utara regional head election, where the Constitutional Court, the MK, has just thrown a curveball you wouldn't believe.
It's more than a curveball, really. It's practically a whole new ball game.
Mm.
After already ordering a revote, essentially the MK has once again intervened in Barito Utara.
And this time
their decision is truly without precedent.
So for this deep dive, our mission is clear. We're going to dissect this MK ruling. We want to understand exactly why they made the extraordinary call to disqualify both candidate pairs.
Both of them, yeah.
And order a second revote in Barito Utara.
To get to the bottom of this, we've got the Constitutional Court's officials ruling itself. Putison, MK no more, 313 PHPU, WP XE3I 2025.
The primary source.
Exactly. And a stack of news articles covering this rather remarkable situation.
All right, let's set the stage then. We had two pairs vying for the top spot, or rather who were vying.
Yes. Past tense now.
First, there was candidate pair number 1, Gogo Permanjaya and Hendro Nakalelo, often going by Gogo Hilo.
Gogo Hilo.
And their counterparts were candidate pair number 2, Ahmad Gunadi Nadalzia and Sastrajaya, known as Aji Saja.
Aji Saja. And as you said, both of these teams have now been, sidelined by the MK.
Okay, so the starting point here is a petition filed by the Gogo Hilo pair. But what's fascinating is that this wasn't the first time the MK had gotten involved in this particular election, right?
Exactly. That's key. This latest ruling comes on the heels of a previous MK decision that mandated a revote in specific polling stations already. So this is, in essence, the sequel at the Constitutional Court for the Barito Utara election saga.
A sequel nobody really expected, I imagine. And this time, the MK didn't just tinker around the edges with another limited revote.
No. They took a sledgehammer to the whole thing.
How so?
Precisely. The heart of this new ruling is the MK's outright disqualification of both the Gogo Hilo and the Agasaja candidate pairs from any further participation in the 2024 Barito Utara regional head election.
Disqualified. That's a nuclear option in election terms. What on earth was the evidence that pushed the MK to take such a dramatic step?
Well, the core finding, the undeniable red flag that led to this double disqualification, was proven and significant instances of money politics, vote buying.
Vote buying, okay.
Committed by both candidate pairs. The MK's legal considerations lay out some pretty eye-opening amounts of money that were found to have changed hands.
All right, let's talk numbers. Because significant in this context probably means more than a few small bills, right? What did the court uncover?
So according to the MK's findings, the Aji Saja campaign was linked to instances where individual voters were offered as much as Rp 16 million melon. 16 million rupiah.
Per voter.
Per voter, potentially.
Yeah.
And the testimony of a witness named Santi Parita Dewey really stands out. She reportedly received a total of Rp 64 million.
64 million.
Allegedly distributed for her family's votes. One family.
Wow. 64 million rupiah for one family. That's a jaw-dropping amount. And what about the Gogo Hilo campaign? Were they playing in the same financial ballpark?
Well, the MK also found concrete evidence of vote buying orchestrated by the Gogo Hilo side, too. Maybe not quite that high per instance, but still significant. Amounts reaching up to Rp 6,500,000 per voter.
Okay, still very serious money.
Definitely. And furthermore, there was testimony regarding a rather unusual incentive from the Gogo Hilo side. A promise of an Umrah pilgrimage for voters if they won.
A pilgrimage trip as a vote incentive.
That's what the testimony indicated. And a witness named Edie Rakinen testified to receiving Rp 19,500,000, again allegedly for his family's votes from the Gogo Hilo side.
19.5 million. So we're not talking about a few small handouts at the local market here. These are serious sums of money being exchanged.
Very serious.
The MK also made a point about the Ajisaja campaign's actions being structural. What does that term signify in this legal context? What does structural mean here?
Right. So when the MK deemed the Ajisaja campaign's vote buying as structural, they were highlighting the established connection between their campaign apparatus, their team, and the candidate pair themselves.
So not just rogue actors.
Exactly. The court found a clear pattern of distribution, backed by testimonies from both those who received the money and those involved in handing it out. It wasn't seen as a few isolated acts by some volunteers, but rather a coordinated effort that appeared to originate from the campaign's core, almost like a business plan with an illegal budget line, you know.
So it wasn't just a few bad apples. It seemed to be kind of baked into their strategy.
That's how the court perceived it, based on the evidence presented.
But the ruling also notes that not every single allegation of money politics was fully proven in court. How did they balance that?
That's a crucial detail, yeah. While the Gogohilo side alleged, I think, 50 instances of vote buying by Agisaja, and Agisaja claimed 17 against Gogohilo.
Right.
The court couldn't definitively verify each and every one. You know how proof works in court.
Sure.
However, based on the compelling evidence that was presented, particularly those significant amounts we mentioned, and the organized nature of the activities, the MK was convinced that widespread vote buying by both campaigns had indeed taken place.
And this vote buying was particularly concentrated in specific polling stations during that first revote, right?
Yes, exactly. The MK specifically pinpointed the impact of the money politics at, let me check, TPS 01 in Kelurahan Malayo, at Tiwatenga Subdistrict, and TPSU 4 in Desa Malawigan to Baru Subdistrict.
Okay.
The court concluded that the proven vote buying in these locations had a substantial effect on the outcome of that revote itself. It skewed the results.
So because of this significant and, it seems, pervasive vote buying on both sides, the MK decided that neither candidate could be allowed to hold office. What was the core of their reasoning behind this double disqualification? It's such a big step.
It is. And the MK's rationale was essentially that the taint of proven vote buying would linger. You know, the cloud of suspicion would remain, even if only one of the original candidates were permitted to run again.
Ah, I see. The damage was already done.
Kind of. And they stressed the vital need to establish a powerful deterrent against money politics in all future elections. Not just locally, but sending a clear message to candidates, campaign teams, political parties everywhere.
So this ruling is intended to be a real shot across the bow for anyone considering this kind of tactic.
Absolutely. That seems to be the intent. The MK explicitly stated that money politics damages and degrades the very foundation of honest and fair elections.
Strong words.
Very. Fundamentally undermining the principles in the Constitution. Allowing candidates who engaged in such practices to remain in the running would essentially be, well, giving a tacit endorsement to these illegal activities and just eroding public trust in the whole democratic process.
Okay, that makes sense. Given this rather dramatic disqualification of both candidates, it follows that the MK would also have to address the previous decisions made by the local election commission, the KPU, and Barito Utara.
Precisely. You can't disqualify the players and keep the old scores. So the MK declared several decrees issued by the KPU, Kabupaten, Barito Utara to be legally null and void.
Which one specifically?
This included the initial announcement of the election results from way back on December 4, 2024.
Okay.
As well as the amendments made to those results on March 24, 2025, following that first revote we mentioned.
Right.
So as far as the court is concerned, those results never officially happened, wiped clean.
And it didn't stop there, did it? I read that even the initial slate of candidates and their assigned numbers were thrown out.
Yes, that's right. The MK also nullified the KPU's decision from September 22, 2024, which determined the participating candidate peers in the first place.
Wow.
And the decision from September 23, 2024, which assigned them their ballot numbers. Effectively, the entire electoral process up to this point has been reset, completely reset due to the findings of widespread money politics.
Okay, so no original candidates left standing. What's the next step then? Does Barito Utara enter some kind of political limbo? Or
not exactly limbo, no. That's where the MK's order for a new revote comes into play.
Another one.
Another one. Because both original candidates were disqualified, there are no legitimate contenders remaining from the previous process. So to ensure that the constitutional rights of the voters are upheld and, that the principles of democracy are maintained, the MK has mandated that another election, a second revote, must be organized.
But it won't be the same candidates lining up on the ballot again, will it? Surely not.
No, and that's the crucial point. This new revote will feature entirely new candidate pairs.
Completely new people.
Completely new. Interestingly, though, these new candidates will be nominated by the same political parties or coalitions that originally backed Gogohilo and Agisaja.
Ah, okay. So the parties get another chance.
In the initial election on November 27, 2024, and the subsequent revote on March 22, 2025. So the political landscape might look familiar in terms of party affiliation, but the faces on the ballot will definitely be different.
So the parties get a second bite at the apple, so to speak, to put forward candidates who are hopefully untainted by this vote-buying scandal.
Yeah.
What's the procedure for that? How does that work?
Well, the responsibility now falls squarely onto the KPU, the Election Commission. They will have to provide a window for the involved political parties or coalitions to nominate new candidates.
Okay.
And these new nominees must meet all the legal eligibility requirements for running for regional head, of course.
Naturally.
Once these new candidates are officially nominated, the KPU will undertake the necessary verification processes, check everything out, and then formally announce the new candidate pairs to the voting public.
And I imagine the voters will need to get to know these new candidates and understand their platforms in a very compressed time frame, yeah.
Precisely. That's a challenge. The KPU is tasked with facilitating a brief period for these new candidates to introduce themselves and their policy platforms to the voters.
Like a mini campaign.
Exactly. This could involve some campaign activities or other forms of public outreach, but it will likely be a very focused and expedited effort. Importantly, though, this new revote will utilize the same voter lists.
Ah, okay. No new voter registration.
No. The DPT, voter rolls, DPTB, supplementary voter rolls, and DPK, special voter lists, the same ones that were used in the original election back on November 27, 2024.
And how quickly does all of this have to happen? Electoral processes can often be quite involved, take a long time.
The MK has been quite specific on the timeline here. They want this done quickly. This new revote must be held within 90 days.
90 days.
The court's decision, which was handed down on May 14th, 2025, so about 3 months.
That's fast.
It is. Furthermore, the results of this new revote will be finalized and certified by the KPU without any further need for reporting back to the Constitutional Court.
Okay, so this is meant to be the final step.
That seems to be the idea. It suggests the MK wants a swift and decisive resolution this time around. No more sequels.
It sounds like a monumental task, though, to organize a completely new election within that time frame. Who will be overseeing this to ensure everything runs smoothly and, importantly, fairly?
Good question. The implementation of this new revote will be under the watchful eye and coordination of not just the local KPU in Kabupaten Barito Utara,
right,
but also the provincial KPU of Kalimantan Tengah and the national KPU, KPU-RI.
So multiple levels of oversight.
Exactly. This multi-layered oversight is likely intended to provide an extra layer of scrutiny and hopefully ensure a transparent and credible process this time. Learn from the past,
Beyond the immediate logistical challenges of organizing another election, the MK's ruling seems to carry a much broader message, doesn't it? About the integrity of the electoral process and the scourge of money politics.
Oh, absolutely. That's a fundamental takeaway here. The MK explicitly stated that this entire sequence of events should serve as a critical lesson for everyone involved in elections. Everyone.
Like who specifically?
Well, they specifically called upon political parties to establish clear and binding agreements with their candidates to proactively prevent any and all forms of money politics.
So putting the onus on the parties.
Yes, it's a direct appeal for parties to take ownership of this issue. Don't just nominate. Make sure your candidates play fair.
And that message isn't just for the political players, is it? It extends to everyone involved in the election ecosystem.
Absolutely right. The MK also urged candidates themselves, their campaign teams, and their wider support networks to commit unequivocally to preventing and avoiding any engagement in money politics.
And the voters.
Crucially, yes. They also appealed to voters to recognize the inherent dangers of vote buying. Not just that it's wrong, but highlighting the potential legal repercussions for themselves.
Ah, right. Voters can face consequences, too.
They can.
Yeah.
And just the profound damage it inflicts on the democratic principles of free and fair elections. Your vote shouldn't be for sale.
It sounds like the MK is really hoping this unprecedented decision will act as a significant deterrent and maybe set a new standard for electoral conduct moving forward.
That's the clear hope, I think. The MK also expressed their expectation that election organizers at all levels will learn from this experience.
I hope so.
And use it as an opportunity to strengthen the implementation and oversight mechanisms for all future elections. Make the system better.
So to bring it all together, what are the absolute key points we need to remember from this deep dive into the MK's ruling on the Barito Utara election? It's a lot to take in.
It is. But in essence, both original candidate pairs, Gogo Hilo and Ajit Saja, have been disqualified. That's the big one. A truly exceptional move.
Okay, disqualified.
Second, this was due to proven and substantial evidence of widespread vote buying by both campaigns.
Both sides involved.
Yes. Third, As a direct consequence, all previous decisions by the KPU related to the election results and the candidate pairings have been nullified, wiped clean.
Got it. Slate clean.
Fourth, the MK has mandated a completely new revote to be held within the next 90 days, so relatively soon.
New election incoming.
And fifth, this new election will feature entirely new candidates nominated by the same political parties or coalitions that initially supported the disqualified contenders.
New faces, same parties. Okay. And the driving force behind all this?
The driving force behind this dramatic intervention is the MK's resolute stance against money politics and their unwavering commitment to safeguarding the integrity of the entire electoral process.
They're sending a clear signal that engaging in such practices carries severe consequences.
Exactly. The court has unequivocally stated that such illegal activities will not be tolerated and will result in the most serious penalties. You cheat, you're out. Both of you, if necessary.
This whole situation really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, what does this unprecedented decision tell us about the ongoing struggle to maintain fair and democratic elections? Not just there, but maybe elsewhere.
Raises big questions.
How might this ripple out and impact future regional elections across Indonesia? Will parties and candidates actually change their behavior?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the 64 million rupiah question in this case.
Perhaps. And ultimately, what responsibility do each of us as voters, as potential candidates, as members of political parties, what part do we play in ensuring that our elections truly reflect the will of the people?
It's a shared responsibility for sure.
It certainly leaves you with a lot to consider as we now look ahead to this unexpected second revote in Barito Utara, the next chapter.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We'll have to watch closely how this unfolds.